Hi, and welcome back to Erin Makes Designs, where today I'm going to show you how to make this cute and very quick little Santa hat on your 22-pin circular knitting machine. Let's get going. To make a little Santa hat, you will need to have a 22-pin circular knitting machine. This one here is the Addi Express Professional by Addi, but you can use any brand that you like. Some DK sport weight yarn. This is from my stash, so I don't know what brand it is, but it has a lovely little sparkle to it. You can use any weight of yarn that you want, some white craft glue, some little pom-poms for the top of the hat, a darning needle, some pins to hold your hat in place if you choose to sew it onto something else, and some scissors. For those of you who are comfortable working on your machine and don't need to see me doing it and know how to do basic cast on and cast off and color changes, you can go ahead and knit yourself on your machine 5 rows in red, 4 rows in white, and 5 rows in red again. And then you can jump ahead using the red sliding bar at the bottom of the video to the section where we are going to be making the construction of the hat. I always include chapters in my videos so that you can jump back and forth to the sections that are most relevant for you. The work on the machine couldn't be simpler. We're going to cast on and knit 5 rows in red, do a color change to white, knit 4 rows, and then change back to red and do another 5 rows. That's it, 14 rows in total. I always reset my counter when I get back after I've done my cast on, so I'll do that now. And this yarn, because it has that little bit of sparkle to it, might catch on the pegs, and so I'll just use my darning hook to lift the yarn up and over these little pegs if that's the case. But you don't need to see me knit this. You can go ahead and knit your 5 rows and meet me back here when you're ready to do your color change, or you can go ahead and knit all of the 14 rows in total and meet me back here when you're ready to do the construction of the hat. Whatever you want to do, pause your video now, and I'll meet you at the next point. And there we are. I have knit my 5 rows in the red, and I am now just going to do a quick color change to the white. So when doing a color change, I cut my yarn and I pull it off and place it inside the machine, just on the side of the last pin. I get my new color, place it into the machine, and put it underneath the first peg. And I'm going to knit now 4 rows. And of course, you can pause now and meet me where you like. There we go. I've knit another 4 rows. I'm going to do my last color change back to the red. Because of course, we're making a little hat. So this is exactly like we'd make a hat on our larger machines. So I will meet you once you have your 5 rows knitted on this. And just before I get around to my last row being completed, I'm going to tie off my color changes. Now, some people are going to want to wait until they have their work off the machine to tie their color changes, and that's okay. You can do that if you want, but I prefer when I've got just enough on the machine to go ahead and do my color changes now. And what I do is I pull these tails until the yarn I'm working with here is about the same length as the little, you can see them there, the little color changes. I don't know if you can see that, but pardon me, and it's not color changes, but you can see we have a longer piece of yarn, longer piece, and then we have just a little one. And I pull these until they are about the length of those little ones. And then I tie it in a double knot. Now, some people find that once they've tied their color changes and have cut their yarn, the yarn pops out the other side, and that's because you are cutting these color changes too short. You want to leave them relatively long. If they are too short, they will easily pop through. And I'm going to do the very same on the one underneath. Here's another trick that I do. I tie 3 knots because you can see after the second one, my red one is sticking up into my white and into the white knitting, and my white one is sticking down into my red knitting. But if I tie it 3 times, it brings the tails pointing in the same direction as their knitting, which means I am less likely going to see those tails sticking out on the other side. Right, and I'm just going to finish off this last row now so that I will have 14 rows in total. And And there I am. So I'm going to cut myself a bit of a tail and take my work off the machine. And of course, if you know how to do that, you can pause the video here and I will see you once the work's off the machine. And there we are. We have our tube, which will very quickly turn into a hat. Now, if you didn't tie your color changes on the machine, you need to remember to go flip your work inside out, tie your color changes, and then you'll be good to go. And I will meet you for the construction of our hat. The construction of the Santa hat is really simple. It is just like making a regular hat. So you are going to take your tube, turn it into itself, pull one of your tails through to the other tail, pull tight on this one, tie them into a nice secure knot. Now I'm going to leave these tails to be at the top of my hat because look at this doesn't really make a hat, doesn't feel like much of anything. But actually what we're going to do now is we are going to take this flat circle and we are going to fold it like this. I'm going to bring my tails out because I'm going to use them in a moment. And we're going to fold it in half again. And then we get that tiny little Santa hat shape, which would be so sweet, hanging on a Christmas tree or adorning a Christmas present, or like I'm going to show you towards the end, being added to something else to make a really special decoration. So now that I have it folded in half, I am going to take one of my tails and put it back onto my needle. And I am going to do a quick mattress stitch of these two sides together. Now, mattress stitch is my favorite technique for sewing work together from the outside because it is invisible. What you need to do, and I hope you can see this, and this stays in focus. Let's see. Yes, it is. Good. What you need to do is you need to identify, and I'll just get some pins here to show you what I'm talking about. You need to identify your column of stitches you are going to be working into. Now, a column of stitches is when your stitches are on top of each other, and a row is when your stitches are beside each other. So you need to find a column of stitches you are going to work into. So right here, I have this column, and I'm going to find this column over here. Now, I'm not saying you need to use a pin to mark that off for yourself. I'm just doing it so that you can see in this video. I wouldn't normally do this. So here I have one column that I'm going to work into, and I have a column here that I'm going to work into. And I'm going to make sure that I stick to these two columns while I do my entire mattress stitch. If I happen to go into another column and pick up a different stitch, then it starts to make my sewing look not very neat, and that's not what we want. So I'm just going to take these pins out now. I'm going to bring my needle up from underneath and bring it out just between the legs of the first stitch in that column. And then I'm going to come over and find the first stitch of the column on the other side, and I am going to pick up the 2 bars between those first 2 stitches. So in knitting, we have the legs of a stitch, and then we have the bar, which falls in between. And I'm going to pick up those 2. And then I'm going to come back over, making sure I'm going into the correct column, and I'm going to pick up the bars of the next 2 stitches down. And I'm also picking up a little bit of the knitting that happens to be on the inside. I have found that that helps these little hats hold together. So then I'm going to come back over to this side, pick up the next 2 bars, and you don't need to worry about going into the white because with mattress stitch, your sewing becomes invisible. I'm going to come all the way down until I'm at the very bottom of my hat. And I think I have one more stitch I want to pick up on this side and one more stitch, pardon me, bar that I want to pick up on that side. And you can see here I have my sewing that I just did there, and I'm going to pull my tail tight and it will draw those two sides together. And we have our tiny little Santa hat shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this tail back up through the work until I come out right beside the other tail. And I'm going to tie them both together and then bring them through the work to hide them. Oops. And then what I mean by bringing them through the work is I'm going to bring the needle back in, come through the middle here, pull those tails tight until the knot that I tied disappears inside the knitting, and that's it. I can cut my tails off. Look at that. What an easy, quick little project that is. I'm so happy working on something that is nice and quick and short. Now we're just going to glue our poms on. Now I went to the shop and bought myself some new little pom-poms, and I looked at all the glue and I said, oh no, I've got plenty of glue at home. No, I didn't. I had to dig this out of my children's craft supplies, or else I wouldn't have had anything to do this video with. So make sure you've got enough glue. So I'm scraping it out with the little cotton bud. There we go, I've got just a dab of glue on top there, and I'll just put my little pom-pom on top. And there we go. Isn't that cute? Now, you will see the bottom here is a little bit, is open. You can leave it like that if you're going to be sewing it onto something else, or if you want it to be closed because you're going to be leaving the hat as it is, I'm going to show you now how to sew that shut. To sew the little base of your hat shut, what you need to do is cut yourself some of your white yarn. You don't need much. Put that back onto your darning needle. And then I like to start, you can see at the back of the work where we have the join. Oh gosh, I haven't waited for it to dry. Wait for your hat to dry. So your little palm there to dry, but I will have to work really carefully here. Okay, what you're going to do is take your needle and you are going to pick up, because I want to have 3 stitches showing on the white of my hat. So I'm going to make sure that I am picking up the legs of my 3rd stitch down. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put my needle through there, and I'm going to come over to the other side now and make sure I'm doing exactly the same thing. And I'm going to have an extra little row here, which is an extra little half column, which is the what we created when we did our mattress stitch. So I'm going to pick that up as well. And I'll come over and get the legs. Can you see that? I am picking up the legs of a stitch, both legs. And then, now that I have those on, I am going to come to the legs of the stitches on the inside of the hat. And I am going to make my way around, making sure I'm picking up the legs of the 3rd stitch down each time, and I'm going to make my way all the way around, going from the outside layer to the inside layer. Now, why might you want to do this? Well, maybe you want to leave this as a standalone decoration on your tree. Maybe you are going to, as I said in the at some point in the video, you are going to have this be a decoration on a Christmas present. Or maybe you're going to do what I'm going to show you in this video, and you're going to make yourself a garland to hang as decoration in your house. And so you may not want to have the bottom of it looking unfinished. Now I am almost all the way around. I've been looking forward to making this video. Oh, look at that. My palm has fallen off. There we go. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. I've been looking forward to making this video for a while now, ever since I've been thinking about all my different videos to make, because you can take this Santa hat and you can take pretty much anything that you have made and turn it into a Christmas decoration. I love how something so simple like this can totally change something. Now, I got all the way around. I made sure that I brought my tails next to one another. I'm just tying a nice secure knot. And then I'm going to hide those tails inside the white section, the white knitting of the hat. And just like I said before, when I was talking about the color changes, if you make your, when you're pulling it through, if you don't do it too short, if you make it a bit longer, then it's going to be highly unlikely that those tails are going to pop out. But if you just come in and come out right next to that and make them quite short, then it's quite likely they are going to pop out. So there we go. We have a nice little tidy bottom to our hat. And you can attach yourself some scrap yarn, or if you have a decorative ribbon, you can hang it from that to make yourself a decoration or for attaching it to anything. Or you can sew it onto something else you've made. So here's a little grogu that I've made from one of my other patterns, one of my other tutorials. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the little hat onto that. And then look at that, you've got yourself a grogu decoration. So here is my grogu. And all I have to do, I'm not going to take this one since its palm is still wet and keeps falling off. I'm going to cut that ribbon off of there. And I'm going to take some of my pins. Now I have these longer pins. They are actually blocking pins for knitting, but you can use whatever pins you like or have. I'm just going to hold the hat in place. I always recommend pinning your work, because if you don't and you get it sewn on and you're not happy with the placement, it's harder to move it around. Whereas if you just pin your work, it's really easy just to take it apart. Take the pin out and move around where you've got it sewn. And I quite like that. Get a little bit tilted there. So I'm going to take myself some of my white yarn again. And I am going to sew it onto my grogu's head. I will pin the tutorial for the grogu just at the end of this video. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to start off into the grogu and I'm going to pick up a couple of the stitches. And I want to make sure when I'm sewing to the body down here that I am picking up both layers. This is a double layer ball, which makes up the grogu head. It gives me a secure base for sewing to, and it doesn't stretch out the yarn if I was sewing into just the outer layer of the grogu. And then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to pick up the legs of one of the stitches on the hat. And I'm going to come back down and pick up a couple more stitches on the grogu. Just say the body from now on. And get the stitches from my hat. And I want to make sure that I'm trying to pick up the same stitches every time. So here I've picked up the third stitch along on the white of the hat. And so all the way around, to make my work look even, I want to make sure that I am picking up the third stitch of the white of the hat. Sometimes you're going to pick up one stitch on the body, and other times you are going to be picking up 2 stitches. Just depends on how far around you are. Just going to take that pin out. Go. Now, some of you might know that I have an email list, and I will put its link down in the captions. Once a week, once every 2 weeks, I send out a very short little email with links to my latest YouTube video. I might also include in that some PDF files that I may have prepared for you to go along with one of the patterns. I'll have little updates for you about what's coming up in what I'm making. And also sometimes I might include discounts for some of my paid patterns in my Etsy shop, Erin Makes Designs. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, and please know I do not spam you, I do not send out tons of emails, then follow the link through in the captions and sign up to my email list. There, I am almost all the way around. I just want to say, I know a lot of people get frustrated when they are sewing, and I totally understand that, but we create things to make us feel good and to have fun. And if you find that your sewing isn't working out the way you want it to, it is okay to stop, to take a break, and to go ahead and unpick your work. There is no point getting frustrated. You may not see it in my videos, but I unpick my work and start again all the time. Although I am very happy with how this hat is being sewed on, so I do not have to. I'm hoping to get all the way around without having to pause and start again. But that's always one of the biggest things I hear people say in the Facebook group about working with circular knitting machines, is that there's a lot of sewing. And there is, if you're going to make the stuffed animals, the toys and things, there is quite a bit of sewing. But once you master the basic skills, you will find it all becomes so much easier and more enjoyable. So be kind to yourself. And I am almost all the way around. Just trying to find the stitch I want to go into. I think I'm going to have to go into that one. I'm going to pick up the last stitch here. There we go. Can I find the last legs? I can. And I'm going to bring this tail here. I was about to tie them together, which of course don't do that. Then you would have your knot sticking out there. I'm going to bring the tail back into the body of Grogu, bring it out to meet up with the starting tail. Before I tie it off, I'm just going to have a look to see if I'm happy with how that looks. And yes, I am. Doesn't that look cute? Doesn't that look amazing hanging from a Christmas tree? What a great gift that would make to give to somebody. Or for some of you who sell in markets. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I think that'd be very popular. I can't wait to put that on my Christmas tree. My boys are fans of Mandalorian, so am I. I love the Mandalorian. I think it's the best of the Star Wars series. Don't come at me, but that is what I think. And I can't wait to put that on our Christmas tree this year. And I'm just going to put the tails back in, bring them through, and cut them off. There we go. And here are some other things that I have done with my little Santa hat. I have this very beautiful ribbon from my stash that I have cut some length of and put the hats on there. And I have put them alongside my little Christmas dinner decorations, which you can find in my Etsy shop. I'll put the link for that in the captions. I think that makes a really great garland and will be fun to hang up on a tree, or I'm going to put this in my studio. I'm looking forward to that. I have also attached the hats to my little positive lemon and carrot. Wouldn't that look fun hanging from a tree or put at your Christmas table? You could attach a napkin ring to the back. Lots of different options. If you are interested in making the Grogu or my positive carrot or lemon, you can find those tutorials here. And like I said, you can find the link to my Christmas dinner decorations pattern in my Etsy shop down in the captions. I hope you enjoyed that.